Okay, grab your pencil. We are looking at O Polichinelo by Hector Villa-Lobos. Now, the first thing I'll start with is what technique we need for our chords. So start by practicing this. So we've got C, E, G, our C major tonic triad. I want you to put your fingers on the keys and then scratch into the hand so that I've made a gentle fist. If I do it upside down so you can see, it's like that. Now, in real life, at full speed, we won't go all the way into the fist, but it's a good practice method. So find your chord, scratch, find your chord, scratch, find your chord, scratch. So we're not starting above the chord and trying to grab the chord from above. That's too inaccurate. We're also not moving our hand up and down to do staccato. This is a common mistake. Doing that not only causes tension, but you're doing an impact on your hand. So you can cause some pain and things like that. So now that you've got our technique, so practice that until you've got it. Now, the first two lines just uses the same triad, but on different notes. So C, F, E, D, C, F, E, D, C, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the first note of bar 7 it will be. The first note of bar 7. So there's all those C chords. So that's just chords. So it ends up being, because this piece is built of patterns, it's not too tricky. For the next bar, so 7, 8, 9, we are still doing our chords, but this time we're going to break them. So C, then D, then E, then F, and then G, then A. And notice that I'm still using those scratching fingers. That'll give me my speed later on. Then F, then G, then A, then F, then G. Now we're in the end of bar 11. You'll notice it's a slur now, so we slur. But when we get to the last note, it's got a slur with a dot. Now, I often see students who think, oh, there's a dot, I need to play a sharp note. But that's not what staccato means. Staccato just means detached. This one is connected. So we connect, and then once we've played the E, we have to come off. So we would lift a little bit earlier than we would lift if there was no dot there. But there's no harshness to the beginning of the note. It's just affecting the way the note ends. In reality, when we're playing this at full speed, it's negligible, the difference that staccato dot makes. Okay, still on the first page, let's look at the left hand now. So for most of the piece, the left hand plays only black notes. So, and we have these three note or 2-note cluster chords. So if we look at the first bar, it's easiest to pick one note, whether it's the bottom or the top, and then just observe whether it's 3 or 2 notes. There's no gaps in any of the chords. You can see those 3 are just the 3 black notes in a row. And again, we still want to use our scratching fingers. Sometimes people think, oh, black notes, and they flatten their fingers, but we still want these nice rounded fingers. G flat at the bottom, E flat at the bottom, B flat at the bottom with 3 notes, G flat. So just notice that they're all next to each other. And now for the bar 7, we're still doing our black notes next to each other, but they're broken or separated. So B flat, C sharp, and they're in groups of 2, D sharp, F sharp, A flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, G flat, A flat, A flat. Okay, now when we do it hands together, you might notice that there's 6s and 5s. At this stage in learning it, we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to worry about what the notes are. So here's our right, left, right, left. They're alternating. Right hand is always on white notes. Left hand is always on black notes. And then we have a pause on a semiquaver rest. It won't last very long at full speed because it is only a semiquaver rest. So that's the first page. Now, you might notice that I ignored the time signatures. We never talked about the fact that time signatures are changing. That will affect where we put our accents in. So later on, you might want to accent the first beats of the bar to bring them out. Again, at full speed, it's not all that obvious, at least in that page, if there's issues with the accentuation. Okay, now we're up to bar 12. So we're still doing the same pattern, just following those triads. We still have our staccato dots, so we'll still use our prehensile movement, and our left hand is that pattern. Hot cross buns. That's not hot cross bun. So the first one sounds like it. So notice that there's this repeated F sharp there because the right hand doesn't have a repeated note. And then we have, looks identical to the beginning. If you've forgotten what SF means, it's sforzando or heavy accent, so you can mark that in if you don't remember it. So now I'm up to bar 17. Now, our right hand is just doing the C chord. Just in that pattern. The left hand is doing sort of an arpeggio. So if you look what the notes are, B flat, D flat, E flat, G flat, miss the A flat and B flat on the top. And then hands together, so this is bar 17 to 20. And be very careful that the fingers aren't sticky. We want that, still want that really light staccato sound. So when Villa-Lobos marks legato note, it's quite a big contrast. Okay, so now I'm up to bar 21, and it's the same pattern that we just did in bar 12, but down an octave. Make sure you've got your really good scratching staccatos. And now we have the same pattern again with that chord, but down the octave. And then we just change the left hand to do that, and the right hand just keeps doing that. So still the C chord, but there's no 3-note C chord. So that's the first page. Now, you may have noticed I've ignored the pedal. That's very intentional. When we're first learning a piece, we want to make sure that our fingers are doing the right thing. If we add the pedal too early, then sometimes our fingers end up holding, we don't notice. But it makes a difference to the final sound. Okay, so we're up to bar 28 now, and we have this introduction. So just our C chord and our cluster chords, so B flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the last one. Okay, and now we've got this bit. This is a chant bien distinct, and if you are French, you will probably realize my pronunciation is not correct. But the melody or the chant is very distinct, so we want to bring out the melody. Now, the way I like to think about this is still going to be using chords, but you might notice that the top note of the chord is a crotchet, whereas the bottom two are semiquavers. So the way we're going to do it is imagine you're karate chopping the piano. So if I play just the melody note, so I'm just playing the crotchets. That was the melody. You might have noticed I only used pinky for my melody, and that was very intentional. So now, as you can see when I'm chopping the piano, it's not actually correct hand shape, but when I put my C chord and then I lean on that as though I'm imagining I'm creative chopping, and you can hear that very slight tilt is bringing out the melody. So I'll play the melody with all the chord notes, which is still just our triad. Check, it's still going, it's still working, that's good. Okay, so that's the right hand. So just, you might have seen, here's my normal position when I'm not worried about a melody. And here's when I am. So there's my normal, worrying about the melody. Didn't bring out the pinky so well that time. And the bottom note is staccato. So the other thing you can practice is play the chord, but let go of the bottom and tilt your hands. So you're getting that feeling of, I'm getting these two off, but this one's holding. And so on. Okay, now left hand. Now there's two things you need to worry about the left hand. The same as the first page, but it gets a bit more complicated because we've got a melody as well. Is it 2 or 3 notes? And what's the bottom note? So our first, that's the last two notes of bar 29, and then we're into bar 30. G sharp on the bottom, B flat on the bottom, B flat, A flat, G flat, A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E flat, G sharp, E flat, A sharp, G sharp, F sharp. Three notes, A sharp, F sharp and A flat, G sharp. What's helpful here is the right hand is moving by thirds, down a third, up a second, down a third, up a second. So is our left hand. Down a third, up a second, down a third, up a third. That doesn't quite work there. And then whatever the next line is going to be. Okay, so now let me put that together. I'll start from the beginning of 28, so I've got that introduction, and nice and slow, so you can see what's going on. Also note it's quiet. Now, we've got this little interlude before we go towards the coda. Now, it's very similar to what we've done before. It's got this pattern, and this time it's not staccato. However, the actual effectiveness of that is going to be minimal because of the fact that this piece is so fast. I'll go from that first C chord, so our right hand's just doing that pattern. The only thing I think is that, yes, the right hand is out of sync. So this bar 44 is very similar to bar 26. However, the right hand is out of sync. So you might want to circle, there's the C chord, there's the E and G. You might want to circle that on your music so that when you get here, you don't accidentally do the other one. So there's a trick with this section. I'll play it first. It's really easy to accidentally accent something in the middle and make it sound like the beginning of the bar. Now this does say that this is what's accented. But I feel like you want to still accent the first bit of the bar in the right hand, otherwise the listener's like, oh, what's just happened to my time signature? And Villa-Lobos is mucking up the time signature a little bit anyway, so you don't want your listener to be confused as they listen. So I bring out the first bit of the bar just that little bit extra so that when it's at speed, the listener doesn't get distraught by what's happening. Okay, so now we've got very similar bit to before, but I believe it's a different starting chord. It's C. It's actually a whole octave. And the left hand has two notes to start with, but then it goes back to this pattern again, and then there's an extra. Now, if we go back to bar 12, we'll see that that was in 3/4 time, and this is in 4/4 time, which accounts for the extra 4 semiquavers. So now I added a last note. When you practice this section by itself, add the first note of the next bar. That's a general rule when we're practicing in sections X anyway. When we're practicing in sections, we always want the beginning of the next bar of the next section so that we don't end up with these pauses in our playing when we try and do it straight through. So that note was G and B. Now it is going to be staccato, but I'll just do it one more time. And there's our last note. Okay, now it does suggest in the version I've got that you do it hands separately first. I haven't found that necessary because afterwards you can't do hands separately and you will need this in one hand. But that's your choice. If you wanted to do that to start with and then take over, you can. But here's the pattern. So we've got big and G. We need to reach over with 4 and 2 to do A flat and E flat. Now, you will get very sore in the hand if you are trying to do this, because that's a very big stretch between 4 and 5. So practice it slowly, pulling in to your fist. I just check you can see my hand. Yes, good. So that's that pattern. And after a while, it will get faster. And even at fast speed, you're still pulling that in, like flapping the wings or something, even if you're not going all the way into a fist. Okay, now if we use the word caterpillar for our semiquavers, this will make life a little bit easier to figure out where our left-hand notes go. So caterpillar, caterpillar, and then we've got caterpillar, 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 rest, caterpillar, 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 rest, caterpillar, 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 caterpillar. That note always gets in the wrong place. So it's on pill. I'm starting at bar 56, the beginning. Caterpillar, caterpillar. Then we have 6 caterpillars. Caterpillar, 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 caterpillar. Now, for the moment, I don't care that it now says prestissimo. I actually want you to still say caterpillar so that the continuity between the two sections is there. So we're playing E flat and F, and we're actually going to say caterpillar. Now, after saying don't use the pedal, this section needs the pedal because it's going to jump up. Right, here we go. Caterpillar, the chord. The chord is F, A, B, E flat, G. It's a composite chord there. So that's another caterpillar. Caterpillar. So that's, I want its value to be related to the value of the semiquavers before. And then caterpillar, caterpillar. So let me show you how that would work in action. I'll start from bar 59. Caterpillar, 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 caterpillar. And then later on, the difference between viva and prestissimo is not that much. Anyway, so that sense of continuity, the beat, is important. Now we've got a tremolo. It is actually still the same chord. It is still the composite chord, F, A, B, E, flat, G. But we're going to tremolo it. Now we need it to work for the same number of caterpillars, but we need it to go as fast as possible. And so when you practice with the metronome, after you've got all the sections learned, you'll want the metronome to click 4 times. Now, then we would finish on that note. And then we're in bar 64. It is the same chord, but it's broken and it's descending. Oh, and it's smooth. There's no staccato there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that last chord, almost the same. Doesn't have the G on top. Doesn't have the A note. So that was this chord. Whoops, I missed it. And then we, again, will want to say 2 caterpillars because we've got a whole minute and we don't want to cut it short. Caterpillar, caterpillar. And now, the final section. We've got the C chord, not as a 3, but as a 2 and a 1. And for the first time, is it the first time for the left hand? No, I failed to point out that the first time the left hand played a white note was bar 51. But here we go, we've got B and D sharp. So we've broken our pattern. Whoops. And then we've got our C. Now, my edition suggests do it with the left hand. It really doesn't matter. What happens next is the glissando. So we've got... Now, the most common technique for glissando is to use your thumbnail. To put it down and then get this left hand C ready while you're doing your glissando. It's getting ready. So you're ready as soon as your right hand reaches the top glissando, the top C, you're ready to add the bottom note. However, I find after I've done a few glissandos that my thumbnail gets sore, so you can't actually practice it that many times. An older technique for glissando was to use the flats of the fingers. Now, the reason the thumb became more popular was if you use the flats of the fingers, you start to annoy your skin and get friction. I don't find that happens, but for practicing it, I'd only do one practice maybe with my thumbnail, and the others I'd use my fingers. Oops. And I find that that's, if you're lightly rubbing across the piano, it's less painful. And I only looked it up because I was wondering, does anyone actually do that? I found that was an earlier technique because it gives a more rounded sound than the nail, which is a more sparkly sound. But it's just that my nail gets sore after multiple repetitions. So you can choose either to do thumb for the final performance, or if you can get the fingers to work nicely, you can do that. But I would suggest alternating if you want to practice the glissando many times. Now that's the outline of the piece. Hopefully you had your pencil ready. You can pause, go back to sections you need to as you try and learn that yourself, ready to show in your lesson.